There are wounds that no one can see, pain that sits quietly in the heart, and struggles that words often fail to describe. You may smile in front of others, yet inside you carry a heaviness that only Allah truly understands. Life has a way of testing us in ways we never expect, through loss, through disappointment, through moments that shake us deeply. And in those moments, the heart begins to search for relief, for healing, for something to hold on to. But what if the healing you are looking for is not in escaping the pain, but in learning how to carry it with patience? What if Sabr is not just about waiting, but about trusting that Allah is gently mending your heart in ways you cannot yet see? There comes a point in life where pain does not ask for permission before entering your heart. It arrives quietly, sometimes suddenly, sometimes slowly, building over time until you feel its weight in everything you do. It could be the loss of someone you loved, the breaking of a relationship you thought would last, or the disappointment of something you prayed so hard for but never received. And in those moments, the first instinct of the heart is to resist. You question it, you try to push it away, you ask why this had to happen to you. Because deep down, we all want a life that flows smoothly, a life free from hardship. But life was never designed that way, and part of healing begins when we come to accept that pain is not an accident in our lives. It is part of a divine wisdom that we may not immediately understand. Acceptance is not something that happens overnight. It is not easy to look at your pain and say that there is good in it, especially when it hurts deeply. But true healing begins the moment you stop fighting reality and start acknowledging it. Not in a way that makes you feel defeated, but in a way that brings you closer to understanding that Allah, in His infinite knowledge, has allowed this moment for a reason. When you accept that your pain is part of a test, it shifts your perspective. You begin to see that this hardship is not meant to destroy you, but to shape you. It is important to understand that every test from Allah carries wisdom, even if that wisdom is hidden from you at the moment. Sometimes the wisdom is to protect you from something worse. Sometimes it is to redirect your life towards a path that is better for your faith and your future. And sometimes it is to purify your heart, to remove from it things that may have taken you away from Allah. But when you are in the middle of pain, it is very difficult to see any of this. All you feel is the heaviness, the confusion, the unanswered questions. This is where acceptance becomes a form of strength. It does not mean that you do not feel pain. It does not mean that you do not cry or struggle. It means that despite all of that, you choose to believe that there is a purpose behind what you are going through. You choose to trust that Allah has not placed this burden on your heart without a reason. And that trust, even if it feels small at first, becomes the foundation of your healing. When you resist pain, it often grows heavier. The more you question it with frustration, the more it weighs on your heart. But when you begin to accept it, something changes within you. The pain may not disappear immediately, but it becomes easier to carry. It no longer feels like something that is working against you, but something that is working within you, shaping you in ways that you cannot yet fully see. There is also a sense of calm that comes with acceptance. A quiet realization that you are not in control of everything. And that is okay. That there is a greater plan unfolding even if you do not understand it right now. This does not mean that you stop making dua or stop hoping for things to improve. It means that you surrender the outcome to Allah while continuing to trust in His wisdom. It is also important to remember that acceptance is not a one-time decision. It is a process. There will be days when you feel stronger, when you feel at peace with what has happened. And there will be days when the pain returns, when questions resurface, when your heart feels heavy again. This is part of the journey. Healing is not linear. It moves in waves. And each time you choose acceptance again, you take another step forward, even if it feels small. In these moments, remind yourself that Allah is aware of everything you are going through. He sees your struggle, your patience, your efforts to remain strong. Nothing is hidden from Him. And when you accept your pain as part of His test, you are not just enduring it, you are turning it into an act of worship. You are saying without words that you trust Him even when you do not understand His plan. There is a deep beauty in that kind of trust. It transforms your pain into something meaningful. It gives your suffering a purpose. It allows you to grow in ways that comfort never could. Because sometimes it is through hardship that we come closer to Allah. It is through brokenness that we learn to rely on Him more sincerely. It is through loss that we realize what truly matters in our lives. And over time, as you continue on this journey, you may begin to notice small changes within yourself, a greater sense of patience, a deeper connection with Allah, a stronger heart that is able to endure more than it once could. These are signs that healing is taking place, even if the pain has not completely faded. Acceptance does not erase your pain, but it gives it a place in your life that does not consume you. It allows you to move forward without being trapped in what has happened. It opens the door for healing to enter your heart, slowly, gently, in ways that you may not even realize at first. And with each passing day, as you continue to trust in Allah's wisdom, you begin to understand that what you once saw as something unbearable was actually something that carried within it a hidden mercy, guiding you towards a stronger, more faithful version of yourself. There is a common misunderstanding when it comes to patience. Many people think that sabr means staying silent, suppressing your emotions, and pretending that everything is fine when inside you are struggling. But real patience is not about pretending. It is not about hiding your pain or denying your feelings. In fact, true sabr is much deeper than that. It is a quiet strength that lives within the heart, a strength that allows you to feel the pain, to acknowledge it, and yet still choose to trust Allah through it. When life becomes difficult, your first reaction is not always calmness. Sometimes it is confusion, sometimes it is sadness, and sometimes it is frustration. You may feel overwhelmed, like everything is happening at once and you don't know how to handle it. And in those moments, it is completely human to feel shaken. But sabr is what guides you through that storm. It does not remove the storm, but it helps. You remain standing within it. True patience is not passive, it is active. It is a conscious decision you make every single day, sometimes every single moment. It is when your heart feels heavy, but you still choose not to complain about Allah's decree. It is when you are hurting, but you still turn to Him in dua instead of turning away in frustration. It is when you do not understand what is happening, but you still believe that there is wisdom behind it. There is a quiet dignity in this kind of patience. It is not loud, it is not something that seeks attention. In fact, many of the strongest people are those whose struggles are not visible to others. They carry their pain silently, not because they have no one to talk to, but because they have placed their trust in Allah. They have found a kind of peace in knowing that He understands what they are going through, even if no one else does. Sabr also requires restraint. It is not just about enduring hardship, but about controlling how you respond to it. When something goes wrong, it is easy to react with anger, with harsh words, or with actions that you later regret. But patience teaches you to pause. It gives you the ability to step back and choose a response that aligns with your faith rather than your emotions. And that is not easy. It takes effort. It takes awareness. But with time, it becomes a part of who you are. There is also a strong connection between sabr and trust. You cannot truly be patient unless you believe that Allah is in control and that He is taking care of you, even in your hardship. Without that trust, patience feels like a burden. It feels like you are just enduring something without purpose. But when you trust that there is wisdom behind your situation, patience becomes meaningful. It becomes an act of faith rather than just endurance. Sometimes patience means continuing to do what is right even when you do not see immediate results. You keep making dua even when you feel like your prayers are not being answered. You keep trying even when things are not going your way. You keep holding on to your values even when it feels difficult. And all of this requires strength, a strength that is built through your connection with Allah. It is important to remember that sabr does not mean that you will never feel weak. There will be moments when you feel like you cannot continue, when the weight of everything feels too much. And in those moments, patience is not about being perfect. It is about returning to Allah again and again. It is about seeking His help, asking Him to give you strength, and relying on Him when you feel like you have none left. There is also a beauty in how patience transforms you over time. It changes the way you see life. It makes you more understanding, more compassionate, more aware of the struggles of others. It teaches you that everyone is carrying something even if it is not visible. And it softens your heart in a way that comfort never could. Patience also brings clarity. When you are in the middle of a difficult situation, everything can feel chaotic. Your thoughts are scattered, your emotions are overwhelming. But when you practice sabr, you create space within yourself, space to think, to reflect, to understand. And in that space, you begin to see things more clearly. You begin to recognize lessons that you may have missed before. You begin to understand yourself better. It is also important to know that patience is not something you either have or do not have. It is something you develop. It grows with practice. Every time you choose to respond with calmness instead of anger, you are strengthening your patience. Every time you choose to trust Allah instead of giving in to despair, you are building that strength within you. And even though it may not always feel like it, patience has its rewards. Not just in the hereafter, but in this life as well. It brings a sense of inner peace, a stability that allows you to navigate life's ups and downs with more ease. It gives you a foundation that is not easily shaken because it is rooted in your trust in Allah. So when you think of sabr, do not think of it as weakness or passivity. Think of it as one of the strongest qualities a person can have. A strength that is not loud but deeply rooted. A strength that allows you to face your struggles without losing yourself. A strength that keeps your heart connected to Allah even in the most difficult moments. There are moments in life when hardship feels like an interruption. Something that has come to disturb your peace and take you away from the life you are trying to build. It feels unwanted, heavy, and sometimes even unfair. You may find yourself asking why things have to be this difficult, why certain trials have been placed in your path while others seem to move forward with ease. But what if hardship is not an interruption at all? What if it is actually an invitation to grow, to reflect, and most importantly, to come closer to Allah in a way that comfort alone could never achieve? Every hardship carries within it a hidden opportunity, but that opportunity is not always visible on the surface. When you are in the middle of pain, your focus naturally goes to what you have lost, what is not working, and what you wish could change. It becomes difficult to look beyond the immediate struggle. But beneath that struggle, there is something deeper happening. Your heart is being shaped. Your perspective is being refined. Your connection with Allah is being tested and, if you allow it, strengthened. Think about how often people turn to Allah more sincerely during times of difficulty. When everything is going well, it is easy to become distracted, to rely on your own abilities, to feel a sense of control over your life. But when hardship comes, it humbles you. It reminds you of your dependence on Allah. It brings you back to Him in a way that is more genuine, more focused, more sincere. Your du'as become deeper, your conversations with Allah become more personal, and your awareness of Him increases. This closeness is not a coincidence. It is one of the hidden opportunities within hardship. Hardship also has a way of revealing your true self. When things are easy, it is not difficult to appear patient, grateful, or strong. But it is during challenges that your real character comes forward. How do you respond when things do not go your way? Do you lose hope or do you hold on to your faith? Do you become bitter or do you seek understanding? These moments are not just tests of your situation, they are tests of your heart. And through them you begin to see where you stand and where you need to grow. There is also a purification that takes place through hardship. Sometimes, without realizing it, we carry within our hearts attachments that weigh us down. We become overly dependent on people, on outcomes, on worldly things. And when those things are shaken or removed, forces us to reevaluate what truly matters. It shifts our focus from what is temporary to what is lasting. It reminds us that everything in this world is uncertain except our relationship with Allah. This realization is not always easy, but it is incredibly valuable. Growth is rarely comfortable. It often requires you to step out of your comfort zone, to face situations that challenge you, to deal with emotions that you would rather avoid. Hardship creates that environment. It pushes you to develop patience, to strengthen your resilience, to build a deeper level of trust in Allah. These qualities are not developed easily. They are forged in difficulty. And once they are developed, they stay with you, shaping the way you handle future challenges. It is also important to recognize that hardship changes your perspective on life. Things that once seemed very important may no longer hold the same weight. You begin to appreciate small blessings that you may have overlooked before. Become more grateful, more mindful, more aware of the Arabic noon, Arabic neen, Arabic neem, Arabic te marbuta that surround you. This shift in perspective is a form of growth that enriches your life in ways that material success cannot. There is a certain strength that comes from going through difficulties and coming out on the other side. It is not just about surviving the hardship, but about what you become in the process. You become more understanding of others, more empathetic towards their struggles. You realize that everyone is fighting battles that may not be visible, and this awareness makes you kinder, more patient, more compassionate. Sometimes the opportunity within hardship is not something that benefits you alone. It may be something that allows you to help others. Your experiences, your struggles, your journey can become a source of guidance or comfort for someone else who is going through a similar situation. What you went through was not in vain. It carries a purpose that extends beyond you. It is also important to understand that not all opportunities within hardship are immediate. Some lessons take time to unfold. Some growth happens slowly. You may not realize how much you have changed until you look back and see how differently you handle situations compared to before. This is part of the process. Growth is not always visible in the moment, but it is happening nonetheless. In the midst of all this, it is natural to still feel the weight of your struggles. Recognizing the opportunity within hardship does not mean that the hardship becomes easy. It means that you are able to see beyond the pain, to understand that there is something valuable being developed within you. It gives your struggle meaning. It transforms it from something that is simply endured into something that contributes to your growth. And as you continue through your journey, holding on to this understanding, you begin to approach difficulties differently. Instead of seeing them purely as obstacles, you begin to see them as part of your path, as experiences that are shaping you into someone stronger, someone more aware, someone closer to Allah. This shift does not remove the hardship, but it changes how you carry it, how you respond to it, and ultimately how it impacts your life. There are moments when the heart feels so heavy that nothing in this world seems capable of lifting it. You try to distract yourself, you try to stay busy, you even try to ignore what you feel, but deep inside, the pain remains. It sits there quietly, waiting for a moment of silence to remind you that it is still present. And in those moments, you begin to realize that healing is not something that can be found in people alone, nor in temporary comforts. There comes a point where the heart naturally turns to the one who created it, because only He truly understands what it carries. Turning to Allah is not just an action, it is a state of the heart. It is when you stop relying solely on your own strength and begin to lean on Him. Is when you admit, even if only within yourself, that you cannot carry everything alone. And there is no weakness in that admission. In fact, there is a deep strength in recognizing your need for Allah, because it opens the door to a kind of healing that nothing else can provide. Dua becomes something very different when it comes from a place of pain. It is no longer just words that are recited, it becomes a conversation from the depths of your heart. You find yourself speaking to Allah in a way that is more honest, more raw, more sincere. You do not worry about perfect words or perfect structure. You simply express what you feel. You tell Him what is hurting you, what is confusing you, what you are struggling to understand. And even though He already knows, there is a comfort in expressing it, in knowing that you are being heard without judgment. There is something incredibly powerful about raising your hands in dua when your heart is broken. It is as if in that moment you are placing your pain in the care of Allah. You are saying that you trust Him with what you cannot fix. And even if your situation does not change immediately, something within you begins to shift. There is a lightness that slowly enters your heart, a sense of relief that comes from knowing that you are not alone in what you are going through. Remembrance of Allah also has a profound effect on the heart. When you repeat His names, when you engage in dhikr, it creates a sense of calm that is difficult to describe. It does not erase your problems, but it changes how they feel. The chaos within your mind begins to settle. The intensity of your emotions softens. You begin to feel grounded, as if your heart has found a place to rest, even if only for a while. Sometimes the pain you carry makes you feel distant from everything, even from Allah. You may feel like your prayers are not being answered, like your efforts are not making a difference. But it is important to understand that turning to Allah is not about immediate results. It is about building a connection, about trusting that He is listening, that He is responding in ways that you may not yet see. The act of turning to Him itself is part of the healing. There is also a sense of comfort in knowing that Allah is closer to you than anyone else. He is aware of every thought that crosses your mind, every tear that falls, every moment when your heart feels overwhelmed. You do not need to explain everything in detail for Him to understand. And this closeness creates a sense of security, a feeling that no matter how difficult things become, you have someone to turn to who will never leave you. Dua and remembrance also help shift your focus. When you are consumed by your pain, it is easy to become trapped in your own thoughts. You keep revisiting the same memories, the same questions, the same feelings. But when you turn to Allah, your focus begins to expand. You start to see beyond your immediate situation. You begin to remember that there is a bigger picture, a greater plan that you are a part of. It is also important to recognize that healing does not always come in the form of your situation changing. Sometimes it comes in the form of your heart becoming stronger, more patient, more accepting. You may still be in the same circumstances, but you feel different within yourself. You feel more at peace, more capable of handling what you are going through. And this inner change is one of the most powerful forms of healing. There is a beautiful balance between expressing your pain to Allah and trusting His wisdom. You ask Him for relief, for ease, for answers, but you also trust that whatever He chooses for you is ultimately for your good. This balance allows your heart to remain hopeful without becoming dependent on a specific outcome. It allows you to continue moving forward, even when things are uncertain. Over time, as you continue to turn to Allah, you may begin to notice subtle changes. Your heart feels lighter than before. Your thoughts are not as overwhelming. The things that once caused you deep distress no longer have the same hold over you. This does not mean that the pain is completely gone, but it means that you are healing. And perhaps one of the most beautiful aspects of turning to Allah is that it strengthens your relationship with Him. What began as a response to pain becomes a source of comfort that you return to even in times of ease. You begin to understand that your connection with Allah is not just for moments of hardship, but for every part of your life. There are nights when you sit quietly, speaking to Allah in ways that no one else hears. And in those moments you realize that your heart is not as heavy as it once was. You realize that something within you has changed, that the pain has softened, that there is a sense of calm that was not there before. And even though your journey is not complete, you can feel that healing has begun gently, quietly through your connection with the one who knows your heart better than you ever could.